Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is KRWG Public Media, TV, radio, online. News that matters. Now, across the Mesilla Valley and the borderland, the stories that shape our community. From the KRWG Broadcast Center at New Mexico State University, this is Newsmakers.
Thank you for joining us for Newsmakers. I'm Casey Counts. June is Pride Month, and while celebrations in Las Cruces take place in October, we wanted to take some time to recognize the challenges LGBTQ plus youth and adults alike are facing, not only in our current political climate, but in everyday life, at home and in society. We're joined by PFLAG Las Cruces Chapter President Ryan Steinmetz. Welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
Let's begin by explaining what PFLAG is and what its mission is.
Sure. PFLAG was founded in 1973 by Jean Manford, who was a concerned mom and wanting to support her child, her son, and being gay. And so she brought together concerned parents to talk and to support each other, to share resources, and eventually create safe spaces. Eventually that became the PFLAG organization, the national organization, which has over 350 chapters across the country and which works to support LGBTQ individuals and their families, educate folks about issues that are affecting LGBTQ folks, and then advocate on behalf of LGBTQ people at the local and national levels.
Sue Brown is a co-founder of PFLAG Las Cruces, and in a series called Telling Our Stories, PFLAG members talk about their own experiences. Let's hear what Sue had to say.
My name is Sue Brown, and I'm the co-founder of PFLAG Las Cruces. My experience of being a part of the LGBTQ community as a family member is that the thanks comes back like 1,000-fold. A few months were kind of hard for me as I tried to make it all come together. I realized that she was the same beautiful, wonderful, loving daughter. I just knew more about her. I'm not going to say it, it didn't happen for me like overnight. It's a process. It's understanding, it's getting to know. There's lots of people who are out there that can provide support, and PFLAG is really one. So I would really hope that you could do that.
Now, can you give us an idea of what someone like Sue's daughter goes through as they navigate finding themselves and sharing their truth with family and friends?
I think I can share my experience in coming out. It was very important for me to look for safe spaces, look for safe people to reach out to, and to share this part of me that I was hiding for so long. And to be able to talk to them openly. Some people that I knew would love me for whomever I chose to be. And it was really important for me to connect to those people, because when you're coming out and you're trying to navigate all of that, I think you feel very much alone. And if you're not seeing your stories represented all around you, or being acknowledged or accepted for who you are, then you're constantly trying to find where that community is where you will be accepted. So I think that's what organizations like PFLAG and other community organizations are really helpful in doing, both whether they're in the community or at the school, in the school campus area. Those really help folks to navigate that coming out process.
You mentioned you had kept it to yourself for a long time. May I ask how long? How old were you when you decided to come out?
Sure, I definitely was in college when I came out. I kind of knew that I was gay when I was in high school, but I grew up in a very conservative community, and it was one that I saw how people who were gay and who were out were being treated. And I didn't feel safe to have that happen for me in that particular setting. And I think that's something that we all do when we're coming out, is we're looking for it. We're constantly looking around our environment to see if is this place going to be safe for me to be who I am here. And if not, then we keep that part hidden from other people.
Now, did you find PFLAG before you came out, or was it something you discovered after that?
It was something that I discovered after that. So I grew up in Ohio, and I came down to New Mexico with an AmeriCorps program, and I discovered PFLAG through living down here and being in that program. And I just was so excited to find a family, really, of people that wanted to get together for picnics and to support each other and to support the families of LGBT folks that were coming out as well. Because that's a process for them too. It's a coming out process for parents to a certain extent, and really a lot of learning that has to be done for folks and loved ones of LGBTQ folks.
Now, stories are told on the PFLAG Las Cruces website, and I'd like to share one with you now. This is Viviano Gonzalez.
My name is Viviano Gonzalez, and I am a board member for the Transgender Resource Center of New Mexico. I'm also a co-facilitator and a trainer for the cultural humility trainings that we have and the support groups that we have here in town. In addition to that, I'm also a co-president of the Gender Diverse Aggies and the AGAs at NMSU for the student groups on campus. My family is a traditional Mexican-American, Roman Catholic family, but absolutely our foundation is absolutely unconditional love. So I've been really, really lucky that my grandparents have set that as the very beginning to our family and the main building block for us. When I was in high school, I was jumped. I was approached to fight. My expression, even before I transitioned, was never really that effeminate. And so I was on the basketball team and on the volleyball team at the time. Those girls had no mercy on me at all. Just the summer workouts alone, there was already like people saying that I was looking at them in the locker room and doing stuff like that. So I would go out of my way to go into the locker room before anybody did or after anybody did, or just not change between practice and class. I was receiving threats and people were chasing me to class, and it repeatedly was a not safe environment for me to be in. So at Las Cruces High School, I was able to start off as a volunteer and be an educational assistant to the teacher that turned things around for me. I was the quiet kid that was sitting in the back. I had a ponytail, I wore a hoodie, and she would try to talk to me, and she would try to get me to talk to her and try to get me to talk to her. And then she put a camera in my hand, and I didn't have to talk anymore. I could just be the one with the camera, and then all of a sudden people started seeing me in this different way and didn't try to victimize me and make me this other thing that I wasn't. I was just the person with the camera. Eventually I quit all the sporting teams that I was on because it was just too much drama. Prom was at the end of spring break, and so over spring break I went and I chopped off all my hair and I rented a tux for prom, and I just said, screw it all, I'm just gonna be me and screw anybody that gets in my way. And that was when people started calling me Super Vib. One of my friends drew a little stick figure of Super Vib, and that became my little logo that was even on Bulldog Sports and on all the little things that I did, because it was just this visible thing of resilience that all these people that were bullying me, actively chasing me down hallways and writing notes, and I wasn't even allowed on the varsity softball team because so many parents threatened to pull their kids off the team if I was gonna be on the teams. And once I became Super Vib, it just shoved all those things aside. By the time that I graduated, I got a standing ovation when I crossed the stage. So that was and still is this hard thing to see that it can turn around that quick. And understanding now that I wasn't ever able to be hired as an official EA, educational assistant for Las Cruces Public Schools, because they weren't open with me being open about my trans status. They were hesitant about the backlash from parents, and they were hesitant about other things. And I saw volunteer position after volunteer position get approved and get funded, and it never happened for me. So they shut the door on me from the place that I finally found a place that I could be in, and now I'm in school. And I was able to transition outside of having to like navigate all those things. And I was able to like go out and become this awesome board member for this awesome organization and take all the things that I learned from teaching and being a part of students' lives into teaching them about the queer community and really being advocates for people that didn't have a space just like I didn't. So my mentality has like shifted like in huge ways and in awesome ways. And like, yeah, I smile more. I'm able to like express myself because I'm able to like walk into a room or like pass myself in a mirror and be like, that is what I've been picturing my entire life. Like that finally looks like me. For so long, I hated the way that it looked because it wasn't me. It wasn't what I saw in myself, and it wasn't that I wanted to be this like manly man that like walked in and demanded the room. I just wanted to look like me, and I was just not able to. And so then I wasn't able to talk about myself, and I wasn't able to love myself, and I wasn't able to give myself the space to know that it's okay for me not to love myself sometimes, and to like lean on the support of the community and of the people that do love me and that are around me. My name is Viviano Gonzalez, and I am a Chicano, queer, trans dude. The visibility that I have seen and the change and the effects of change are vital to the survival of my siblings.
You can really see how important just one person can be for someone like Viviano. And I'd like to ask you, what advice do you have for someone who hasn't yet found that person?
Gosh, keep looking, because those people exist, but it might, depending on where you're growing up, depending on where you're living, it might be a little harder for you to find those people. Or have access to folks that are going to accept you for who they are. But I guarantee you there are those people. And what we try to do with PFLAG is to bring people together and allies in our community to really make sure that people see that there are folks that are out there that are willing to come to be there and accept people for whomever they are. We had some moms that were getting together with our PFLAG booth at Pride last year and giving out hugs to the community and to LGBTQ individuals for whom maybe they didn't receive hugs in their family because of who they were. So I think it's important to find those hugs and find those people that can help you navigate through.
Let's talk now about the history of Pride Month. June 28th is International Pride Day, the day we're recording this program. It marks the anniversary of the Stonewall riot in 1969. Tell us a little bit about what happened and its significance today.
Sure. Well, this happened in Greenwich Village in New York City, and at the time there were lots of laws almost in every state that was not only banning places where LGBTQ folks congregated, but also any sexual intimacy between same-sex partners or anything like that. That was all criminalized. And so these places kind of met underground. And Stonewall was about, during this time, a lot of police raids were very common amongst these places. And Stonewall was a place where that day when it happened in 1969, people were fed up. Were fed up, and it was led by two trans women of color, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. And they resisted arrests and started a riot for standing up for their rights to be and exist and come together in ways that they chose. And that became a symbol then for Pride marches to start. I think the first Pride March happened the year after. And then that happened in New York City, and then it started happening in a lot of cities across the country and across the world. It really started the gay rights movement.
Now we move to the ongoing struggle for equality, and some might be surprised to know that it was only 2003 when the Supreme Court recognized the legality of same-sex intimacy in Lawrence versus Texas. And this was after police in Houston arrested two men whose home they entered after receiving a report of a weapons disturbance. Now, can you recall your reaction to that decision?
Well, I was still fairly young and early on in my coming out process, so I think I was definitely more focused on my own challenges in the coming out process than what was really going on around me. I don't think I was as aware at that time. But what I think it speaks to is this general marginalization of LGBT folks that was codified in law, that was saying that your ways of loving each other are criminalized, are not acceptable. And I think that causes a lot of people to live in the shadows. That's what I think about when I hear about that particular case.
And of course, fast forward to 2015, you probably had a stronger reaction by that time with Burgerfel versus Hodges, so which of course legalized marriage for same-sex couples.
Sure.
Tell me about that moment.
Sure, that was a really big moment across the country and here in Las Cruces as well, because it meant that that everybody could get married, that it didn't matter which state you lived in. It just meant that if you loved someone else and they happened to be of the same sex, you could get married in any state any state of the union. Whereas before it was always piecemeal. You could go to this state but not this state. You know, I could get married in Mexico, but New Mexico, excuse me, but not in Ohio. And that creates a lot of challenges for people who are trying to just live their lives.
And Doña Ana County was a place where marriage licenses were being handed out.
Yes.
And the scene on that day when couples went to get married, I mean, you saw couples that had been together for decades.
Exactly, and finally they had that right to be able to do that. That was so special. But I think as we see now, you know, there's a lot of work still to be done in our communities to make sure that those rights are kept.
Well, on that note, these decisions and other unenumerated rights are called into question with the Dobbs decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, which overturns Roe versus Wade. How concerned are you that some of these other cases are going to be revisited and in fact overturned?
Well, you know, I think it would be very difficult to overturn a lot of the laws that are protecting LGBTQ folks, not just because of the resistance that would come up because of it, but also it would call into question what happens to folks that are married. That, you know, do those get reversed? Do the immigration rights or do the tax rights that were achieved through some of these laws that were passed or laws that were struck down, I should say, do those go in, you know, are those retroactively affected? I don't know. I think it would be a lot of logistical challenges to do that. But that said, the danger is there. And certainly the part of the case for Roe versus Wade that was used to support it, that was just struck down in the most recent decision, was also, and it had to do with due process, was also the same argument used for the Lawrence case and the Burgerfel case. And I think that's what makes it really dangerous for us and losing all of the ground that we worked so hard to move forward.
Earlier we heard from Viviano Gonzalez, who talked about one educator who was a life changer. And now we see education of gender and sexuality issues under attack, with efforts to ban books from school libraries and to discourage curriculum that covers those topics. What should people know about the value of that type of education?
I think you saw it from Viviano's story, is that when you choose to support someone in their own uniqueness, when you choose to create an environment where those people are valued and supported, then you see kids flourish. And when that doesn't happen, then it creates dangerous environments for our children, for our LGBTQ children. For queer folks, for queer kids, they're 4 times more likely to commit suicide. And for trans kids, that's even 2.5 times greater than that. And that's when it becomes really scary for me to see kids who are put in a situation where they can't be who they are.
Now, in Texas, the governor issued an order criminalizing the parents of trans youth who seek gender-affirming care. The state Supreme Court ruled in favor of one family of a 16-year-old, however, allowed the state to continue investigating other families. So it's very much a mixed bag as it stands at this point. What is the danger here, and how do you communicate to people about gender-affirming care who maybe just don't understand it?
I think if you talk to any parent of a trans youth, that they are desperate to do something, knowing the statistics for trans youth in particular with regards to suicidality and depression and those kinds of things. They are desperate to try to find an answer for their child. This isn't something that just happens. This isn't something that someone wakes up and they're like, I think I'm a different gender from what I was born as, and I just want to go ahead and get surgery. That's not what happens here. There are years and years of therapy and discussions about what this would mean in terms of changes and things like that. And I just think I would want people to understand that, to have more empathy for what these kids are going through and what the parents of these kids who are trying so hard to help their kids be happy and safe are going through as well.
Now, during Pride Month, the Texas Republican Party wrote in its platform that homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. They included language that says there shouldn't be any special legal protections for gay, lesbian, and bisexual people, and they oppose any criminal or civil penalties against people who oppose homosexuality. The party also says they oppose all efforts to validate transgender identity, and that for anyone under 21, no medical provider should be allowed to perform services to that person affirming their gender identity. How do you respond to that kind of language?
I would first say, well, that's real welcoming, isn't it? It doesn't sound very welcoming to me. It doesn't make me want to be a part of their party. I think it's short-sighted, number one. If you're trying to get more people to be a part of your party or to believe in the ideology that you're trying to pass, that's not how you're going to do that. The other thing is what constitutes them deciding what's normal. Why is their normal more important than my normal? Why is I think when we get into that argument of whose normal is more normal, we have a real challenge with how we move forward together.
Now, in New Mexico, how would you say efforts are developing in terms of equality, and do you see the same kind of rhetoric here?
Well, it's interesting. New Mexico has protections for LGBTQ folks written into its constitution, and so there, in and of itself, there are more protections. It's a safer state in my mind for LGBTQ folks, and Las Cruces is fairly safe as well, in my understanding. But I think I think when you go outside of larger urban areas in New Mexico, you still are going to have a lot of issues. I've been in Truth or Consequences for their first Pride March, and there were a lot of people that had gathered to heckle them during that time, and it was something that I hadn't seen in Cruces for a long time. So that certainly exists. I think it's a lot harder for folks that are in rural areas and areas that are not connected to universities or to urban settings.
We hear the term ally when it comes to non-queer people and who support queer people. Can you tell us, what does it mean to you to have an ally, to be an ally?
I think to be an ally is to what you just shared. It's someone who is not part of the community, but very graciously and passionately supports that community. I think it's important for allies to be there because that support is so necessary. I think sometimes it's important for allies to know when to step back and allow for the voices of the people that they are supporting to be heard and to be spotlighted. But that said, those allies are hugely important in creating a safe space and environment for people that are marginalized.
And for anyone who needs to reach out to PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, how do they do that?
They would go to our Facebook page, or they could reach us at Las Cruces PFLAG at gmail.com. And we are definitely looking for more people to get involved and for helping us plan different activities. We need some more capacity to be able to do that.
All right, well, that's our time for now. Join us, and thank you so much, PFLAG Las Cruces President Ryan Steinmetz, for your time today.
Thank you.
And that is our time now, and you can join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's Morning Edition from 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, and that's followed by Here and Now from noon to 2. All Things Considered 4 to 7, and KRWG News is always online at krwg.org. And we'd like to hear from you. You can email us with story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. And for all of us at KRWG News, I'm Casey Counts. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Newsmakers.